Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 10th, 2019 legislative session for the Salisbury City Council. At this time, I would ask everyone to please silence any devices that make noise. If you need to make a phone call, we ask that you do it outside of the chamber. If for some reason an emergency should arise during the meeting, please do not use the elevators. Exit in an orderly manner from the chamber. Make a right-hand turn and go down the stairs. If for some reason that exit is blocked, please make a left-hand turn and then a right-hand turn and go down the stairs at the end of the hall. If you need assistance, please ask and we'll be happy to provide it to you. At this time, I'll call on Pastor Dana Stauffer, Fruitland Campus of Emmanuel Wesleyan Church, for our invocation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Pastor.
Good evening. Let us pray. Lord, before we even start tonight, God, we just want to invite you in this place. Lord, your word tells us where 2 or 3 are gathered, Lord, in our midst, Lord, there you are. So we ask that you would be here in our midst tonight, even in a city council meeting, Lord. We need you tonight, God, because we know, Lord, when you're here, God, things go so much more smoothly. So we ask you to be with each and every person that is here. Lord, you know the needs, you know the concerns in their family and their own lives. But God, tonight, Lord, we ask that everything would just, that every distraction would be gone, God, as we focus on this agenda tonight. May we get everything done that needs to be done. May you give us strength and wisdom tonight, God, to make the best decisions for this community. I thank you, God, for what you're doing in this city. Great things are happening. Lord, it's growing, and I thank you for the leadership that is represented here. God, I pray for Mayor Day today, God, and I pray, God, that you would just touch him, God, from the top of his head to the soles of his feet, God. I pray for his family. I pray for every person represented here tonight, God, that you would be with them as well. In Jesus' name, and everybody said, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor Stauffer. Please stand now and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we have a proclamation.
We do, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you so much for your time this evening. I want to start off by saying thank you to Councilwoman Blake and Councilman Ireton and President Heath for participating this weekend, or I guess it wasn't this weekend, it was, was it last weekend?
Weekend,
Goodness. Last
Time flies.
weekend. It does. In the celebration that we had on the downtown plaza, you and I and Ms. Glanz were joined by hundreds of citizens who, some of whom shared their stories of having been mistreated in their life, having to go through things that none of us should. And as leaders in government, it's our responsibility, I think, to acknowledge that freedom is, as I said this weekend or last weekend, not the antagonist of freedom. Freedom is the antagonist of subjugation and oppression. And in that spirit, I'll read this proclamation. Whereas the city of Salisbury has a diverse LGBTQ community and is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equity for all people in our community, and many of the residents, students, city employees, and business owners within the city of Salisbury who contribute to the enrichment of our city are part of the LGBT community. And various advancements have been made with respect to equitable treatment of all people throughout the nation, but there continues to be some opposition against people from the LGBT community, making it important for cities like Salisbury to stand up and show support for our affected and impacted residents. Several cities across the United States recognize and celebrate June as LGBTQ Pride Month, and June has become a symbolic month in which lesbian and gay persons and supporters come together in various celebrations of Pride. And June 28th, 2019 will mark the 50th anniversary of the beginning of the Stonewall Uprising in New York City, which symbolizes the start of the LGBTQ liberation struggle in America. And the rainbow flag, also known as the LGBTQ pride flag, has been used since the 1970s as a symbol of pride and the LGBTQ social movements. And flying that flag on the downtown plaza through the month of June further symbolizes our celebration, our city's celebration of diversity, the support for the LGBT community, and to ensure that all persons may avoid oppression and subjugation in our community. Now, therefore, I, Jacob Day, Mayor of the City of Salisbury, do hereby proclaim June 2019 as LGBTQ Pride Month in our city, and I invite everyone to reflect on ways that we can all live and work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding as our city recognizes this month by flying the rainbow flag on the downtown plaza during the month of June.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'll call for a motion to adopt the legislative agenda.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Ireton, Ms. Jackson. Good evening, Mrs. Nichols. How are you?
Good evening, fine, thank you. And you?
Very good.
On the consent agenda tonight, we have the May 6, 2019 work session minutes, the May 13th, 2019 council meeting minutes, and the May 20th, 2019 work session minutes. Resolution number 2950, approving the appointment of Lisa Howard to the Sustainability Advisory Committee for term ending June 2022. And resolution number 2951, declaring that Brandon C. Brittingham Realtor PC is eligible to receive enterprise zone benefits for property located at 107 Williamsport Circle in Salisbury for the 2 employees who started work in October 2018. And that's it.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor to approve the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Mrs. Nichols. Is Lisa Howard here by any chance? No? Okay. We thank her very much for volunteering and look forward to her participation on the Sustainability Committee. I'll now entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2952.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, is there a second?
Me.
And Ms. Blake?
Yes.
Thank you. Didn't hear you, sorry. Ms. Glanz, good evening.
Resolution number 2952, a resolution of the City of Salisbury, Maryland to sign a memorandum of understanding with Salisbury University to allow the university to utilize portions of the Plant Street right-of-way to redevelop out-of-use industrial properties and to provide a safe multimodal path to the student body and general public. Whereas the City of Salisbury supports redevelopment of several out-of-use industrial properties, and whereas Salisbury University intends to construct a multimodal path connecting to and extending the city's rail with trail for the betterment of the student population and the general public. And whereas the path and its associated utility and landscaping improvements will benefit the city as a whole, and whereas the Plant Street right-of-way is currently a dead end and is of little general use, and Salisbury University owns the parcel along the approximate 300-foot length of the easterly border of Plant Street, and whereas the city and Salisbury University have jointly developed the attached memorandum of understanding and defines the responsibility of each party in regard to the use of Plant Street right-of-way.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2952, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2953.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda.
Resolution number 2953, a resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury to adjust city street right-of-way by exchanging certain sections of land with 500 Riverside Realty LLC near the intersection of Mill Street, Riverside Drive, Camden Avenue, and West Carroll Street. Whereas the city of Salisbury owns all public streets, including those which border the southern and eastern portions of the real property owned by 500 Riverside Realty LLC, and has an existing right-of-way on the property as shown on plat entitled Survey of the Lands to be Acquired by Spiro Investments LLC dated May 1st, 2004, made by Becker Morgan Group, recorded in the land records of Wycomico County, Maryland, in plat cabinet number 14, folio 620. And whereas the city of Salisbury has deeded rights to Mill Street by the State Roads Commission of Maryland, Board of Public Works by Maryland, by deed date October 20th, 1965, and recorded among the land records of Wycomico County, Maryland, in Lieber 620 folio 155. And whereas 500 Riverside Realty LLC acquired its property map 0111, parcel 1500, by deed dated January 13th, 2007, from Devrico LLC, and is a fee simple owner of the property as shown by the deed recorded in the land records of Wycomico County, Maryland, in Lieber 4119, folio 419, which property abuts the public streets of the city of Salisbury, Maryland, namely Riverside Drive and Mill Street. And whereas the city of Salisbury does not object to adjusting the property lines between the two parcels, which involve exchanging very small parcels of land between the affected properties, and whereas an adjustment of property lines would allow both property owners to continue to use their respective properties without negative effects to both property owners, and whereas the city of Salisbury requested the lot line adjustment and shall be responsible for all costs associated with preparing the necessary paperwork and all charges connected to the property line adjustment, filing, and recording, and whereas all drafted paperwork shall be approved by the city solicitor before being signed by the mayor.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2953, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2954.
So moved.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Ireton.
Resolution number 2954, resolution of the city of Salisbury accepting a donation of 3 trolley-style vehicles and spare parts from Tri-County Council, Shore Transit Division. Whereas the council of the city of Salisbury supports the acceptance of donations to improve public services, whereas the Tri-County Council, Shore Transit Division, has obtained permission from the Maryland Transit Administration to remove 3 trolley-style vehicles from revenue services and donated them and spare parts to the city of Salisbury as outlined in Exhibit A. And whereas the Salisbury Zoo's request is to utilize these trolleys as transportation for the adventure camp held during the summer months, and whereas the city of Salisbury plans to take over the operations and scheduling of downtown trolley routes starting in fall 2019. And whereas the Business Development Department request is to utilize these trolleys for additional transportation needs during special events in order to increase service and reduce expenses.
Any questions or comments?
There's just one just minor edit on line 10. I think it should be has instead of as.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that, please?
Line 10,
Yeah.
as should be has.
Has. Gotcha. Noted. I'll now call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2954, please.
Oh, I was going.
That really was a yes.
It was a yes, though. I didn't mean to say that.
Okay, we'll try again.
Oh, my God, don't.
All those in favor of resolution number 2954, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Let's get back in control. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2955.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Blake? Ms. Jackson? That was very good, by the way.
Oh, good. Yes. Perfect.
Resolution number 2955, a resolution of the city of Salisbury accepting a donation of 10 fishing poles from Timothy Spees for use at the adventure camp at the Salisbury Zoo and other youth programs. Whereas the council of the city of Salisbury supports the acceptance of donations to improve youth programming, And whereas Timothy Spees wishes to donate 10 fishing poles to the city of Salisbury to be utilized during ongoing enrichment activities at the Salisbury Zoo Adventure Camp and other youth programs. And whereas the Salisbury Zoo's request is to utilize these fishing poles during enrichment activities and field trips during summer camp and other youth programs.
Any questions or comments?
Just thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Nice job. If you have any more, we got lots of kids, so. But thank you very much, seriously. I'll now call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2955, please signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2956.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson.
Resolution number 2956, a resolution of the City of Salisbury accepting donations from Salisbury Sunrise Rotary Foundation Incorporated for the Housing and Community Development Department's neighborhood walks and pop-up bus stops. Whereas the City of Salisbury's Housing and Community Development Department participates in neighborhood walks and pop-up bus stops monthly, and whereas the Salisbury Sunrise Rotary Foundation Incorporated wishes to donate funds to help sponsor this program, and whereas the donation of funds will be used to purchase refreshments and food used to feed residents in the community, and whereas funds are already budgeted for this program.
Any questions or comments? Another fine donation. We thank the Rotary Club. I'll now call the motion. All those in favor of resolution 2956, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Ms. Glanz.
Welcome.
I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2539 for the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson. Good evening, Mr. Tillman.
Good evening. This is an ordinance appropriating the necessary funds for the operation of the government and administration of the City of Salisbury, Maryland for the period July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, establishing the levy for the general fund for the same fiscal period and establishing the appropriation for the water and sewer, parking authority, city marina, and stormwater funds. Be it ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the amounts listed in Schedule A operating budget appropriations are hereby appropriated for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020 to fund operations of the City of Salisbury, Maryland. Be it further ordained by the City of Salisbury that the amounts listed in Schedule B capital project appropriations are hereby appropriated for capital projects. Be it further ordained by the City of Salisbury that the amounts listed in Schedule C, anticipated grant expenditures, are hereby appropriated for the grants listed, and the mayor is authorized to enter into any necessary agreements or memoranda in order to receive and expend these funds. Be it further ordained that the tax levy be, and the same is hereby set, at .9832 per 100 of assessed valuation of real property, at 3.51 per 100 of assessed valuation for all personal property categorized as utilities, and at $2.40 per 100 of assessed valuation for all other personal property subject to taxation by the City of Salisbury for general fund purposes, including debt service purposes exclusive of revenues derived from the water and sewer fund for debt service purposes attributed to water and sewer activities. And 2, all taxes levied by this ordinance shall be liens from and after July 1st, 2019, and shall be due and payable as specified in Title 14 of the Tax Property Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland as amended. Be it further ordained by the City Council that a public hearing on the proposed budget ordinance was held May 13th, 2019 in room 301 of the City County Government Office Building, 125 North Division Street, Salisbury, Maryland. Be it further ordained by the City Council that this ordinance shall take effect upon final passage. And the schedules that were referred to are included with changes, lined out figures, and then the permanent figures as well.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2539 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2540 for the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Ms. Blake.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to establish that there is no rate change for water and sewer rates. It is effective for all bills dated October 1st, 2019 and thereafter, unless and until subsequently revised or changed. Whereas the water and sewer rates must be revised in accordance with the proposed fiscal year 2020 budget of the City of Salisbury and appropriations thereby made and established for purposes of the water and sewer departments. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the Council of the City of Salisbury that the following water and sewer rate schedule shall be adopted by the City of Salisbury. And this is the rate schedule set forth, Schedules 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And it's my understanding that these rates have not changed from the prior year.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2540, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2541 for the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Blake, Mr. Boda.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to set fees for FY 2020 and thereafter unless and until subsequently revised or changed. Whereas the fees charges by the city are reviewed and then revised in accordance with the adoption of the fiscal year 2020 budget of the City of Salisbury, and whereas the fees listed in the attached FY 2020 fee schedule Exhibit 1 are an attempt to identify and list all fees, some of which are revised in accordance with the adoption of the fiscal year 2020 budget in the City of Salisbury, and where some of the fees have been inadvertently omitted, may have been inadvertently omitted from the schedule. Any existing fees not listed in the attached FY 2020 fee schedule shall remain as currently set forth in the Salisbury Municipal Code. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the Council of the City of Salisbury that the fee amounts listed in the attached Exhibit 1 FY 2020 fee schedule shall be adopted by the City of Salisbury, and the amount set forth therein shall supersede the corresponding fee amounts prescribed by the Salisbury Municipal Code until one or more of the said fees are subsequently amended. And I think there are a couple additions too, which are set forth in here, and a couple little changes with lines through them since the initial introduction.
That's it. Okay, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2541 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2544 for the second reading.
So moved.
Mr. Ireton, Ms. Blake.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's capital project fund budget to reallocate funding for the Riverside Circle project. Whereas ordinance 2394 authorized the city to sell bonds in FY17, which appropriated funds for various capital projects. And whereas the FY17 bond funds includes funding for Riverside Circle, Spine Rail Trail, and the Aquatic Harvester, and whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development is seeking to move unused funds from the Spine Rail Trail, the Aquatic Harvester, and the interest revenue from the bond pool to the Riverside Circle project to provide the funding necessary for construction of the Riverside Circle project. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury that the city's capital projects fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. And the chart below describes where the money is being transferred from and where it's going.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2544 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2545 for the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY 2019 general fund budget to appropriate additional funds for electricity for street lighting. Whereas the Traffic Control Branch has determined additional budgeted funds are required to maintain street lighting through the end of FY 2019, and whereas the City of Salisbury determined there are is insufficient funds to available in other accounts to transfer to cover the amount required. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury that the city's fiscal year 2019 general fund budget be amended as follows. And it shows an increase in current surplus by $115,000 and an increase in Department of Field Operations by an equivalent amount.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2545 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2546 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda.
Okay, this is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to amend the Salisbury Municipal Code by adding a new section, Chapter 5.68, concerning hotel licensing and inspection. Whereas the Mayor and City Council recently established the position of Fire Marshal within the City of Salisbury Fire Department, whereas there does not currently exist a provision in the City Code in connection with ensuring that hotel establishments within the city are inspected and comply with the City of Salisbury's applicable fire codes in order to protect the public's health and safety, and whereas establishing such licensing and inspection provisions for hotel establishments within the city would protect the public and utilize the hotel within the city, now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, the Title V Business Licenses and Regulations of the Salisbury Municipal Code be amended by adding Chapter 5.68 hotels to read as follows. All right, so there's a new title, Chapter 5.68 hotels, and then there's a section 5.68.010 definitions. As used in this chapter, the following words and terms shall have the following meaning unless another meaning is plainly intended. City means the City of Salisbury. Hotel means a building or groups of buildings under the same management in which there are sleeping accommodations and primarily used by transients for lodging with or without meals. The term hotel shall include a hotel, an inn, a club, a motel, a bed and breakfast, or any other structure meeting the definition of hotel regardless of the name of the entity or institution used. Person means an individual or group of individuals or corporation, partnership, association, or any other entity. License required. Any person desiring to locate, operate, or construct a hotel within the corporate limits of the city shall be required to first obtain a license from the Business Development Department. Any person who currently operates a hotel shall apply for a license on or before 30 days after the date that this ordinance takes effect. An application for a hotel license pursuant to this chapter shall be made in writing and signed on a form supplied by the Business Development Director. The applicant shall in the application agree to conform to all provisions of this chapter and other ordinances and other applicable codes within the city governing hotels. And B, every person subject to the provisions of this section shall, upon application for an annual license, submit proof of an inspection and approval conducted by the city fire marshal to ensure compliance with the city's Fire Prevention Code. 5.68.040, conditions for a hotel license. A license provided under this chapter shall not be issued to a person for the construction, location, or operation of a hotel unless the person in hotel location is in compliance with all applicable city laws and regulations, including payment of all city real property and personal property taxes. 5.68.050, operation of a hotel without a valid license. Paragraph A, misdemeanor. A person who operates a hotel without a valid hotel license required under this chapter shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction thereof shall be subject to a fine of not more than $200 nor more than $500 for each offense, or imprisonment for not more than 90 days or both. The party aggrieved shall have the right to appeal as is provided under the general laws of the state. Where the act or omission is of a continuing nature, conviction for the one offense shall not be a bar to a conviction for a continuation of the offense subsequent to the first or any succeeding conviction. Municipal infraction under B, a person who operates a hotel without a valid hotel license or otherwise violates any provision of this chapter shall be guilty of a municipal infraction and shall be subject to a fine not to exceed $500 for each offense. Each day a violation continues shall be considered a separate offense. The city fire marshal is authorized and designated by the council to authorize the persons within this department to act as enforcement officers for the purpose of preparing and carrying out the requirements for issuing and serving municipal infractions. Nothing herein contained shall prevent the city of Salisbury, Maryland from taking such other lawful action as is necessary to prevent or remedy any violation of the provisions of this chapter. And 5.68.060, license fee. A license fee of $50 shall be charged and collected for each hotel license issued pursuant to this chapter. New licensing fees shall be set by resolution or as part of the annual approved yearly city budget. And the licensing fees are non-refundable according to 5.68.070. And the hotel licenses under 080 issued pursuant to this chapter shall expire on the 31st day of December following the date of issuance. That's it.
Any questions or comments?
I got. When does this become effective?
Should be, to become effective, we don't have a date yet, and we'll have to check with the fire marshal, I'm not sure.
Because, I mean, if they do it now, and then by December 31st, they got to do it again.
Right.
And the other question that I have going along with that is, I assume they have a license now from the county.
That is correct.
So am I to assume, which should be clear, but that it won't take effect until the 1st of January
That is correct.
next year?
Yes. So they currently have a license.
Right?
It'll live out the rest of its life or through the year. And then ours will go into effect moving forward with the issuance of a new license.
Okay, so should this become effective as of January 1st, 2019? Is that, or 2020, I'm sorry.
After hearing what we just heard now, I think maybe we might want to put a little amendment in there, because we probably don't want to wait until January 1 for people to apply. We want them to apply before that date.
Right, but the fee would apply.
Yeah, so I think maybe it would be wise, based on Mr. Muir's comments today, to add another sentence stating that the licenses to be issued will become effective January 1,
Is that okay,
2020.
Mr. Mayor? Do you have any problem?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Okay.
It's a holiday.
So,
It is, it's a holiday.
it's in rare form tonight.
What you say? What did you say, Jay?
I said you're in rare form tonight.
Yes,
but
I
that's-
am.
All right, so we can make that change?
Yes,
You
we'll
wanna-
take care of that.
Okay, great. Because we have another reading anyway, so you'll put that in for the next reading.
Just our first reading tonight.
All right, for the first reading, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2546 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye.
Okay, this is an ordinance of the city of Salisbury.
Let me get the
Oh, I'm
motion
sorry.
first.
I did it, I'm sorry.
He's on the roll too.
I've lost complete control of this, just so we know. All
I
right,
just need another drink of water, Mr. President, I'm sorry.
have two. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2547 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Ms. Blake. Mr. Tillman, now you may read it.
Thank you, sir. An ordinance of the city of Salisbury, Maryland, creating bicycle facilities on the South Boulevard, Carroll Avenue, West Market Street, North Park Drive, South Park Drive, Northwood Drive, Middle Neck Drive, and College Avenue in accordance with the Maryland Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, Chapter 9, and as designated by the 2017 Salisbury Bicycle Network Plan. Whereas the city of Salisbury desires to encourage the use of bicycles throughout the city, and whereas the Salisbury Charter SC 11-2 gives the city charge of all public ways in the city. And whereas the City Council adopted the Salisbury Bicycle Network Plan via resolution number 2712 on December 13th, 2016. And whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development is in the process of implementing the Salisbury Bicycle Network Plan by making the improvements to the streets listed herein. And whereas the proposed bicycle routes will consist of bicycle facilities in both directions along South Boulevard from Riverside Drive to Eastern Shore Drive, Carroll Avenue from Riverside Drive to Snow Hill Road, West Market Street from Circle Avenue to West Main Street, North Park Drive from East Main Street to Beagland Park Drive, South Park Drive from Snow Hill Road to Beagland Park Drive, Northwood Drive from Naylor Mill Road to Route 13, Middle Neck Drive from Hammond Street to the easterly city limit, and College Avenue from Route 13 to Riverside Drive. And whereas portions of Carroll Avenue and South Salisbury, South Boulevard already have existing bike facilities as approved in Ordinance 2215. And whereas in order to define the dedicated bicycle lanes, appropriate lane striping and lane markings must be provided on the pavement. And whereas in order to provide a bicycle route, portions of the roads must be marked as shared between motorized vehicular traffic and bicycle traffic. And whereas in order to define the portions of the roadway that are to be available for usage by bicycles, appropriate shared markings will be installed on the pavement. And whereas in order to clearly define the route, appropriate signage will be installed. And whereas the curb-to-curb street width on the affected street shall be unchanged by the proposed bicycle route, and whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development desires to construct the facilities listed above in a timely and efficient manner to the benefit of the residents and visitors of the City of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that bicycle facilities be created on South Boulevard, Carroll Avenue, West Main Street, North Park Drive, South Park Drive, Northwood Drive, Middle Neck Drive, and College Avenue as described herein, and be it further enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury that this ordinance shall take effect upon final passage.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2547 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the award of bids.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson. Mrs. Miller.
I'm not used to going at the end.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good. Uh-oh.
It's loose. Needs to
I
be
know. Wait,
tightened up.
there we go. Okay, all right.
We have to award a new microphone?
Be a small purchase.
Okay.
Okay, 4 items this evening. The first is for Riverside Roundabout construction. The Department of Procurement received a request from the Department of Infrastructure and Development to solicit bids for invitation to bid number 19-123, the Riverside Roundabout construction. The scope of work for this solicitation called for a qualified contractor who will furnish all labor, materials, equipment, and incidentals necessary for the construction of the Riverside Roundabout located at the intersection of Riverside Drive, West Carroll Street, Camden Avenue, and Mill Street in Salisbury, Maryland. The Department of Procurement followed standard competitive bidding practices by advertising in the Daily Times, posting the solicitation on the City of Salisbury's procurement portal, and on the State of Maryland's website, eMaryland Marketplace. One vendor submitted a bid by the due date and time of April 4th, 2019 at 2:30 p.m. That bid came from George & Lynch Incorporated at a total bid of $1,520,702.30. George & Lynch was deemed responsive and responsible, but the bid came in over budget. Section 2.32.050.C.1.D, Procedure for Competitive Bidding of the Salisbury Code of Ordinances, states that in the event only one responsible bidder has submitted a responsive bid, the procurement may be negotiated with that sole bidder. The Department of Infrastructure and Development worked with the contractor to value engineer the project, resulting in a negotiated contract value of $1,486,495.30. Funds are available in the account noted in your packet. The Department of Procurement concurs with the recommendations submitted by the Department of Infrastructure and Development and hereby requests Council's approval to award this contract to George & Lynch in the amount noted.
Questions or comments? Okay.
Okay. The next item is for the police department. It's 3 utility vehicles. The Department of Procurement received a request from the Salisbury Police Department to solicit bids for 3 2019 or 2020 model year Ford Police utility vehicles without upfitting. The procurement department followed standard competitive bidding practices by advertising on the Daily Times, on the City of Salisbury's procurement portal, and on the State of Maryland's website, eMaryland Marketplace. 3 vendors submitted bids by the due date and time of April 30th, 2019 at 2:30 p.m. Lindsay Ford bid $106,200. Hertrick Fleet Services bid $104,679. And Apple Ford bid $103,615.68. The lowest responsive and responsible bidder was Apple Ford, which is also has the shortest delivery lead time, approximately 17 weeks. Funds are available in the Salisbury Police Department Vehicles account noted in your packet. The Procurement Department hereby requests Council's approval to award this contract to Apple Ford in the amount of $103,615.68.
Questions or comments?
Here, do you want to see a pic? It's yeah, no, it's the bigger one. It's like, it's an Interceptor. Sort of look like a, oh, I thought you meant little. Yeah.
What we went to as the sole type of vehicle a couple years ago. Because we had that big.
Some of the lights, the prisoner transport cage, the Panasonic Tough Book that goes in the car, so on and so forth.
Any other questions? Okay.
The next item is also for the police department. In November 2015, the Salisbury City Council approved Contract 114-16, purchase of body camera system for the Salisbury Police Department to purchase 70 Axon body camera systems supporting software and data storage from Taser International at a contract cost of $178,831.20. This complete system integrated with the Taser products and the Evidence.com data storage system that were in use by the Salisbury Police Department at that time. In April of 2019, the Department of Procurement received a request from the Salisbury Police Department to enter into a new multi-year contract for up to 5 consecutive fiscal years with Axon Enterprises Incorporated, formerly Taser International, for cyclical equipment replacement and the continued software licensing and data storage for the body-worn cameras and in-fleet vehicles currently utilized by the police department. While the initial term of the contract is 1 year, the city will have the option to renew all or portions of this contract with the same terms and conditions as the original contract for 4 one-year terms, contingent upon sufficient budget appropriations and mutual agreement between the city and the vendor. The features of the new agreement will include a body camera and license to upload for every officer, a license to access Evidence.com for every administrator, 10 terabytes of data storage. We're currently using about 6 terabytes. 3 in-car camera systems to be installed in fiscal year 20. Auto tagging for all body and fleet cameras. New body cameras every 2.5 years, and then new fleet cameras every 5 years. And discounts for new equipment purchases over and above what's noted in your packet. The negotiated pricing for this contract to begin in FY20 and continuing through FY24, again, contingent upon sufficient yearly budget appropriations by the City of Salisbury, will be as noted in your packet. Basically, every year the amount will be $69,804. Section 2.32.050.C.5.E, procedure for sole source procurement of the Salisbury Code of Ordinances. Sole source procurement exists whenever the director determines that there is only one available source for the subject of a procurement contract, and he or she may award the contract without competition to that source. More accurately defined as a single source procurement, in which 2 or more vendors can supply the commodity, in this case body cameras, but the department selects only one vendor over the others. it would be strategically advantageous to remain committed to the current system of Axon products, as a complete system replacement would be cost prohibitive. Pending council approval of the FY20 budget at tonight's council meeting, the Department of Procurement hereby requests council approval to award contract ITB A-19-111 body-worn cameras and in-fleet vehicles to Axon Enterprises Incorporated. It is intended that all subsequent renewal requests will be processed under the contract extension clause, which will be handled in future years by the Department of Procurement with no additional council approval necessary.
Questions or comments? I do have one. I remember in the original discussion, there was some unknown about the storage. Is it what we expected? Is the storage usage what we expected, or is it higher? Because I see the thing that we are going from 6 to 10 terabytes. Is that going to require, as we keep going, or is the amount of information that will be stored on there going to go off after a certain number of years? We had that whole discussion. Can you, I don't know, I hate to put you on the spot.
That's
but-
quite all right, sir. No problem. Yes, so we are using slightly more than the original contract that was done back in 2015.
Yeah.
Hence the reason we requested to increase it to 10 terabytes. We're currently using 6 now. We feel that the 10 terabytes will give us that buffer
Right.
as we continue to add video to it. And there are categories in place on the camera systems that as each video is tagged, it will auto-delete after 120 days, or it will be retained indefinitely if it's needed for whatever that type of category is. So we have different levels of retention that will automatically make sure that stays within that buffer zone.
So from administration point, there's not that much to do because it does it, you set the auto and it deletes itself essentially.
That's correct, yeah. The
Okay.
officers categorize it, and then once that's categorized, the system will automatically do it on its own and keep it within that buffer zone.
Great.
That's with the new system, right? That's not
It's, the current system has that as well, but this continues that on and keeps it within the buffer. The only addition that we have with this new agreement is the auto tagging feature, and the auto tagging feature will actually save significant man hours because officers won't have to go in and put the incident number on anymore.
Yeah.
The system will do that on its own, and so it'll make it much easier. It'll save time for that. It'll make it easier for our records department to provide the evidence when needed to the state's attorney's office.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. Last one. The Department of Procurement received a request from the Department of Finance to solicit proposals from qualified and experienced certified public accountant firms to audit the financial statements for the City of Salisbury, Mitchell Landing, and the Zoo Commission for up to 4 consecutive fiscal years, FY19 through FY2022. While the initial term of the contract is 1 year, the contract extension clause incorporated into the solicitation provides the city with the option to renew all or portions of this contract with the same terms and conditions as the original contract for up to 3 one-year terms, contingent upon sufficient budget appropriations and mutual agreement between the city and the vendor. The Department of Procurement followed standard competitive bidding practices by advertising in the Daily Times and posting the solicitation on both the City of Salisbury's procurement portal and on the State of Maryland's website, eMaryland Marketplace. A total of 7 vendors submitted proposals by the due date and time of February 21st, 2019 at 2:30 p.m. The vendors' technical proposals were evaluated by committee according to the criteria established in the solicitation document. I did put that in your packet as well. And pricing was open for those proposals that received a minimum qualifying score of at least 70% of the technical points available. In your packet, I did note all 7 firms, their composite score, which is a combination of all the technical points and the points for pricing, and then the price. And that's a 4 years combined total price. On April 22nd, 2019, the Department of Procurement issued an intent to award to the highest-ranked respondent, PKS and Company, as further discussion was necessary to facilitate a successful formal award. Pending council approval of the FY20 budget at tonight's council meeting, the Department I don't even know who I am. The Department of Procurement hereby requests council's approval to award contract RFP 19-102 auditing services to PKS and Company Public Accountants in the amount of $45,000 for an FY19 audit engagement. It's intended that all subsequent renewals to be processed under the contract extension clause will be handled in future years by the Department of Procurement with no additional council approval requirement.
I'll start with a question. I am totally amazed at when we get some of these in, at the range. I mean, it's bizarre. 180,000 on one end and 400,000 on the other end for the same work. I guess they're not that busy. The high-end guys, because they don't want
So
it,
how long
obviously don't want it.
How long has Barbara King Thornton?
Since I was a child. It really does. I mean,
Yeah,
through my formative years.
yeah.
I mean, at least
Yeah. Was there
11 or 12 years that I can recall.
It's
I feel like this is a key quarterly lightning round question section. What's the cutoff for, besides money? We're taking money off the table because it makes no sense that one of them is 400,000 and the other is 8,000. What's the cutoff for, that's bad. I don't mean the money, I mean the scoring, because having not known anything but barbecue and Thornton, I don't know if there's an issue, or we're required though, to put it back out. So,
Yeah, so of those, the technical points, I think they add up to like 75 total possible points. A firm would have to score at least 70% of that, which I think came out to be like 52.5 points. So when they do, the evaluation committee says, okay, you are technically competent to do the work that we've asked you to do based on the proposal, based on references, so on and so forth. At that point, if a firm is technically competent, then we open their pricing.
Gotcha.
is there, or would there be, I know that barbecue from every couple of years sort of circulated in a new group of people, a new fresh set of eyes. I'm just worried that, I'm not worried. What's it take for a new company to come in and
What's the
start this
transition?
process,
I guess the transition.
Start this process over from scratch for them. And I mean, we've gotten over what's the big barbecue Thornton thing at the end that always tries?
Oh,
The requirement to have all the money for all retirees
Yeah.
in the history and future of Salisbury for the next 200 years. Somehow on the back.
I don't think it was quite that, but it was.
The only time I agree with
Yeah.
taxes on anything.
The one thing that I will note though is that every time, because I get interviewed as part of the whole thing, there's been different people every year. So I think it's not that someone gets so used to and I think that's a great idea. So that someone's coming in who hasn't been here every time. I like that idea of it. But I think that's how they keep it fresh and sort of assure that we're not going to get just a stamp.
Same old, same
You know?
old.
And Keith shared this morning that folks are already starting to talk with anticipation of this,
Good.
but to transfer documents and make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, usually when somebody comes in 2.5 times or 2.25 times higher, they don't want the business. They just threw their name in there, and it's just wild. Having come from a business background, this is crazy. But anyway, any other questions?
Does barbecue Thornton come in at the average? I don't know. Did we get an answer to your question? What is the time frame that takes a new? And this isn't my checkbook, which is pretty easy. mortgage, the car, groceries, Gordy's.
Keith can answer that, I'm sure.
Keith could probably answer that
Keith.
right now.
Keith, would you mind coming
Want
up?
to come up to the podium? Yeah.
It's hard to put a number of hours or a factor, but I think definitely that first year takes a significant amount of effort and investment to get acquainted with the client. So it's just like any business, to get started, they have to, it might be a loss leader in that first year, but then it's all for future years, making a profit in those years. But they did a great job of running up to Wilmington to meet with Barbara Thornton staff to get a thumb drive with all of their work papers and to have a proper handoff. So PKS has already gone up there and gotten information and gotten started in getting ready for taking on the engagement.
You know, I think if I could, the other thing is, that's the risk we undertook by putting it back out, because the reality is, I don't know how you determine whether or not you're happy with your auditing team.
That's right.
Because if they give you bad news, it's your fault. If they give you good news,
Yeah, it's great.
it's yours.
Yeah.
They found me.
Well, I mean, it's, bad news or good news, it's on you. It's not on your auditing team. It's hard to know, right? So, I mean, I think there's nothing to say, but we've been really happy because all the news has been incredibly good.
Yeah.
For the last, few years, this has been a team that has given us good advice. We've implemented it for years now, to the point where they had nothing else to say. So changing horses midstream when things are going perfect is scary, but at the same time, I think it was the right thing to do to put this out. I think we all recognized that it was, there was no reason that this was not a service that we would bid out like we would bid out to others, or request for proposals the way we would of others. I think you got to recognize that in spite of the potential consequences, because you're right, the next firm not only takes time to get to know us, but could also find, they look at things differently. And I don't know how to judge that. So I think using the most objective procurement process possible is probably the best way to do it. Right?
I think the one thing we have to remember too is that for the last couple of years, especially this past year, the improvement in the systems has made it, not just from a budgeting process, but also from an auditing process. You heard what they said. Essentially, the processes that they look at are it's much easier to interpret. So I think that someone coming in is not going to have the same problem or level of difficulty as they would have 4 or 5 or 6 years ago. So, it's good, it's scary, but I think that at some point it should be done. So we will see. Jim, anything further?
I don't know. I just, I finally got used to.
He like,
What's her name?
he's been knowing him ever since he was a little boy.
What's the name who comes?
Her name is
Pam.
Pam.
I just, when Pam comes in, you can tell when she's got that look that says, well, here it is. It's a grant, it's something from the grant section. It's the things that don't get spent because of the time it takes to spend the bond money. It's all of those things. It just strikes me odd a little bit that we go through all of these, and lots of times in our city's history, we want to keep it local. We want to keep it local, and
Sometimes it's something like this.
Does Keith feel secure with
it's-
Do you feel secure?
yeah, I think I want to ask him that, but I don't want to ask him that because really, it's the mayor's.
But, I mean,
And I feel, although I love getting on Keith Corddry about all the time, it's the.
It's good, we're making progress.
well, he's ready to answer.
I just, having gotten very few 91s in my life, except in the science classes, that's a great score, and if you could 30 seconds shed some light on how you get a 91, is it, especially from a company that doesn't have access to us already, it just, I don't know, it makes me wanna say to them, hey.
I guess
tell
maybe-
everybody else how to get a 91.
I guess maybe one question is, what other municipalities or government entities are they working with?
Thank you.
They work with the county, and have for years, right?
Oh, geez.
Really?
I think they get good audits.
That help or hurt?
No, yeah. We've seen them in the building. They do a great job down the hall for them.
Okay.
I'm afraid to make a comment to that answer, so I'm already in enough trouble.
I just did it, I'll probably get slapped.
The thing to know about that is that doesn't mean they're giving them financial advice or,
Right.
you know, that means they're
Just
checking
doing
their
their
books,
business.
making sure that, you know.
Processes and systems are in place.
And
That's
that
their-
every
that's
dollar
their
is
role.
where it's supposed to
Yep.
be. That's, you know.
I just feel like if I'd known we were gonna do this, I'd sent Pam flowers and said, I know I was getting rid of you tonight, but looks like I am.
We'll see if they come in and say that every human being has to be funded.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll know right away.
We'll know
whether or
right
not
away.
we're in the
We'll
same
know
boat,
right away.
That's,
All
thank
right.
you for the time, thank you.
And just to clarify too, procurement does not sit on evaluation committees. It's the using departments and then any other department, say if finance is a particularly big component of
To bring it-
something,
to bring
they
that
do.
in.
But for this one, it was mostly the finance department, so
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
you're welcome.
All right, if there's no more questions, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the award of bids, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Do we have any public comments?
Nope.
No? Anything for the good of the order?
I just want to say one thing. I did want to thank you, Jack, for attending Friday to the Choices Academy. The school is going towards a green school, and in that effort, we have a big community garden that we're putting together, and it's linked in with the Choice Street Garden. And in the fall, we're going to put a huge hoop house up, and it's going to serve multiple purposes, including an outside classroom. And it was really nice to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. It is, and the kids were excited, which was really cool to see. I do have one comment. I think that I'm really proud of the fact that we are continuing to provide the services that we provide, especially in the safety and quality of life issues. And that we were able to do it with no tax rate increase and with no change to the water and sewer service. And I thank the council members for their work, Mr. Mayor, and thank Mr. Cordry for the presentation. It gets easier and easier every year to handle the budget, and that's a credit to your department and you. So, thank you very much. If there's nothing else, Mr. Mayor, you have a...
I mean, you already said it, but I just wanted to say thank you to the five of you. You just adopted a budget that continued the only small city housing first program in America, created a homelessness to work program, includes safer bike infrastructure in our streets, the operations of 2 youth community centers, police cameras, vehicles, the most competitive municipal pay system in the region, upgrade our fire safety regimen, created operational funding for our brand new wastewater treatment plant, and did it without increasing taxes and our water and sewer fees. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for what was, I know, a long deliberative process, but for all the hard work that you put into this budget and for supporting Salisbury's team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Having said that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.